Former Prime Ministers Dr. Timothy Harris and Denzil Douglas have often been accused to be strong authoritarians by political opponents and some within their ranks. This is not unique, as other political leaders across the Caribbean, past and present, have earned similar titles. But for political analyst Peter Wickham, this trait may be exactly what has led to some of these leaders enjoying political longevity and some measure of success, a contrasting trait to current St. Kitts Nevis Prime Minister Dr. Terrance Drew, who has a more democratic consensus approach to leadership. In Mr. Wickham's estimation, having a strongman approach is something Dr. Drew would need to do to stave off political opponents and assure his longevity.
St. Kitts and Nevis is a peculiar political environment in that it is one of the smallest states in the world, quite frankly, with a population as small as it is, a voting population as small as it is. It becomes one of the smallest states in the world. And it is a well-known fact that a person who manages St. Kitts and Nevis has to manage St. Kitts and Nevis almost like a family business. And that's essentially what the successful leaders of St. Kitts and Nevis have had to do. That's what Dr. Douglas did. That's what Dr. Harris did. And I suspect that if Dr. Drew is not doing it yet, he will need to start doing it in relatively short order, or he will be toast.
In an interview with SK Newsline, Mr. Wickham pointed to political leaders in the Caribbean who did not have this strongman approach and have met their political demise.
Let me take you back to Barbados in 2017. Let's take you back to Barbados since 2010, quite frankly, when former Prime Minister David Thompson closed his eyes. We had a leader called Frandel Stewart. I could take you back to Grenada a few years earlier when there was a leader called Tillman Thomas. These two individuals are generally renowned across the region as being the two worst that we have seen in recent times. And guess what? Both of those leaders had this kind of consensus approach to politics. So Frandel Stewart articulated a principle that said he thought the ministers ran the government, and he was willing to let them do what they had to do. We had a situation in Barbados where there was raw sewage flowing in the streets, and we were told that it is the responsibility of a minister who would have to take the lead in relation to the matter. The reality of the situation is, as much as we think that that is a good idea, the leaders that have practiced that style of politics have, generally speaking, been bad and have been unsuccessful.
In contrast, he said, the Caribbean leaders who have been successful have had an aggressive strongman and hands-on approach to governing.
You contrast that with a person like Prime Minister Motley, who is known to be the same kind of aggressive, hands-on politician that Denzil Douglas was, that Timothy Harris was, that Ralph Gonzalez is, that Keith Rowley is in Trinidad and Tobago, you know, Eric Williams, Al Barrow. I go back further and further, Kennedy Simmons. You find all of these leaders have that other characteristic, and you know, Prime Minister Motley comes in and she cracks the whip, and you know, the sewage stops flowing, and there are things which start to get moving.
The full interview with Mr. Wickham can be heard on Voice of the Caribbean Radio by visiting the program's on-demand section of the website www.voiceofthecaribbean.net. I'm Andre Huey for SKN Newsline.